Hello everyone, welcome to MES e-learning channel. In our everyday life, like when we do something good, and if someone appreciates us or acknowledges us, and a simple smile or a response like very good, good job, a pat on the back, how do we feel? We feel happy, right? Same way, even in a classroom, as a teacher when you're teaching, and when you want your students to respond to you, or like when you ask a question or you want them to give some ideas, and when they respond, we need to acknowledge that, right? So how to do that? That is what we are going to discuss in today's session, skill of reinforcement. So let's understand what is reinforcement. Reinforcement is a strategy in the field of learning psychology that aids in influencing the reactions or behaviors of the learners. As I told you, in the classroom, when you ask a question and when the student answers your question, a simple smile on your face and saying good, that will make the student feel happy, right? And that's reinforcement that you're giving them. So these are the reinforcers. So what you see here, the words like excellent, good job, great improvement, perfect, very creative, you did it. All these are reinforcers. So reinforcers are those things that are instrumental in reinforcement. So we have types of reinforcers, positive reinforcers and negative reinforcers. So what are positive reinforcers? Behaviors of the teacher that increases pupils' desirable behavior. Okay, like for example, when you motivate your students or when you say words like very good, well done, that will motivate the students to answer or to respond to you, right? So that's giving a pleasing effect in the classroom. And same way, negative reinforcers, they are the behaviors of the teacher that brings negative reinforcement in the pupil's behavior, like a punishing effect. Suppose when a student is answering to a question and you suddenly look at them and say, what nonsense, then how will the student feel? So that's giving a punishing effect, right? So these are the two types of reinforcement, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So positive reinforcement strengthens the desirable behavior. So it is used for strengthening of desirable behavior. And negative reinforcement, weakening of undesirable behavior. So in positive reinforcement, we have positive verbal reinforcement and positive non-verbal reinforcement. And same way, for negative reinforcement, we have negative verbal reinforcement and negative non-verbal reinforcement. So what is positive verbal reinforcement? So when I use words to communicate, when I utter some words like good, very good, excellent, you did it, that's interesting. All these words are positive verbal reinforcement. Okay? So why do we use it in our classroom? To communicate with the pupil, to acknowledge their responses, to make them feel that we are accepting their idea. So this is why we use positive verbal reinforcement. And how can we do this in the classroom? Like for example, you have asked a question and the student answered. So you can repeat their answer, you can paraphrase, you can restate their answer, or even you can go towards the blackboard and write down their response. So the student will feel happy to see the responses on the blackboard, right? And also you can summarize what the student said and you can make encouraging remarks. And also you can use some cues like or when you say okay, that's correct. All these are positive verbal reinforcement. So all the examples I showed you here, these are all examples of positive verbal reinforcement. Now, positive non-verbal reinforcement. Now we understood verbal means uttering words. Non-verbal in the sense when there are no words uttered, but through your expression, gestures, as we know, our gestures and expressions are louder at times, right? So how do we use that in the classroom? So that is non-verbal reinforcement, okay? Like for example, through your expressions, when a student is answering and you just smile at them, that's a non-verbal reinforcement that you're giving. So it indicates that you're accepting the child's answer, you're listening to them, even when you're talking. And like for example, even in our everyday life, when we communicate with people, so we need to make the other person feel that we are listening to them, right? And when we listen, we nod, we smile, we acknowledge. Same way, likewise in the classroom also, when a student is answering, the child should feel that the teacher is listening to them. So simple gestures like nodding, smiling, and moving towards the child, all these are non-verbal reinforcement, and it's very important to make eye contact with the students in the classroom. So when a child is speaking, you should have an eye contact with them, smile at them, nod. These are positive non-verbal reinforcement. Now negative verbal reinforcement, as we understood before, negative reinforcement gives a punishing effect, right? Like, so when you use this reinforcement, like for example, as I told you before also, a student answered your question and you look at them and make an expression like this and you say, what nonsense, that's wrong. So that's giving a punishing effect, right? So it interferes with the learning of the pupils. Then the next time, before the child answers, the child will think, should I say, because that will not create a good impact in the minds of the students. Okay? So it negatively affects learning, it discourages or decreases the motivation of the pupil to answer. So we should avoid using this type of reinforcement in our classroom. So negative non-verbal reinforcement, as we understood, non-verbal is where there are no words uttered, but through your expressions when you speak, or in the sense when you express it through your face. So it can be just frowning or giving an angry stare. All these are negative non-verbal reinforcement. Even moving away from the respondent, when a child is answering and you just turn back in the class and you walk towards a blackboard. So you're showing that you're not that shows you're not interested in listening to them. Or even, giving a discouraging look, frowning, as you can see here, hard and disapproving stares, all these are negative non-verbal reinforcement. At times when a child is answering, you feel tapping the feet or even moving your hands, looking here and there. It shows you're not giving attention to the learner or to the pupil who is answering. Even walking around when a child is answering, all these are negative non-verbal reinforcement. Okay? So now additional points that has to be considered is encouraging or reinforcing only few responding pupils. Like for example, in your classroom there are two to three children who is responding and you're just giving positive reinforcement to them. Then is that right? No, you should be reinforcing everyone and you should be motivating students to answer. So like for example, you should motivate a child to try, and when a child is trying, you should give them a positive reinforcement which will make them feel happy. Using very few reinforcing statements and wrong use of reinforcement. Like for example, I have also heard teachers saying like, that's amazing, when a child is answering. What is amazing in an answer? Unless it's an idea that the child has said. If a child has stated a statement, then you say, oh, that's amazing then. Is that right? Should acknowledge or you should reinforce correctly. Okay, that should be kept in mind. Apart from this, the things that you need to keep in mind is responses or the responses that the students give should be reinforced correctly. You should have a proper use of reinforcement, novelty used in reinforcement in the sense every time if a teacher is saying very good, very good, very good, very good, repeatedly using the same word, how will it look? It will not give that effect in the classroom, right? You will feel like every time the teacher is going to say the same word. So there should be novelty while you use reinforcement. So even in positive reinforcement, you should use different words. So you should have novelty in reinforcement, use of apt gestures and non-verbal cues. Suppose you are saying very good and the expression is not of that, like there is no smile on the face and you're saying okay, good, then no. As per the words used, your gesture should also show that. So you should have non-verbal and verbal reinforcement used correctly. And your voice should be encouraging, happy, pleasant. Okay, so these are the things that you have to keep in mind when you use the skill of reinforcement. So with this, I hope you spread smiles in your classroom and you make your learners happy. So I hope you understood what is reinforcement. So today in this session we have discussed what is reinforcement and the types of reinforcement and how we can use this reinforcement in our classroom. Now how to use it correctly I'll tell you all using some shots. So see you there. Thank you.